just think about, before you go and buy one of these cheap Chinese group sets, that if you look at your local retailers, you can actually get Shimano at a really good price, and you don't need to buy cranks, chain, cassette, disc rotors, which then makes this more expensive than the Shimano 105 Di2. I just can't see in what world you would be on and what planet Zog you would be on to want to make that purchasing decision. I just don't understand it. So hi everyone, and welcome to the review of the Wheeltop GEX gravel / all-road group set. Now, why is it on this kind of road TT bike? Well, I'll explain in a minute, but this has been quite a while coming, this video, because I've been testing this for about 3 months now. Mainly it's been on this bike, and it's on this bike because I was looking for a one-by group set to build this bike back up to ride the kind of road TTs on, and I didn't want to spend too much, and I had this in for test that retails at €599. Also, the mech is so damn big when you're down the block and it sticks out, your foot hits it. I think there's a lot of paid reviews out there, let's just say that, and they've given this a very glossy review on YouTube. I think a lot of them do skim over the inadequacy of the group set, and it has potential to be really good, but just not at this price. And so before we get into this review, and I'm going to do it in a sort of likes and dislikes format, something a bit different rather than just go, tit to butt and bore you to death with it. Let's just talk about the price, because this is what it comes down to, isn't it? The brass tacks is €599, about 550 quid, or 650 or 700 US dollars. That's a lot of money for not a lot of group sets. So although they're calling this a group set, you don't really get much. And to put it into perspective, today I looked up at 105 the Di2, the full group set, which I can get for 850 quid, or this at 550. But this doesn't come with cranks, so there's no chain set, no chain, no cassette, no discs, no front mech. Obviously by design it doesn't come with a front mech. But when you consider that you need to buy all these other bits, I've had to, source a Shimano chain, source a Shimano cassette. Yes, it's 11 speed, so it's a bit cheaper. And a set of Cybre cranks, which I've bought at a discount from Panda Podium. It's really not very cheap. And I think for this price, I'm going to spoil this review now. Save your money. Do not buy this group set. It's way too expensive for the quality. Let's get straight to the dislikes and stay around for the likes, because there are some, but we'll put them in at the end. Let's see if we can save the review. But the dislikes, first of all, like I just mentioned, those buttons. They rattle like crazy, even on fine tarmac. And this is supposed to be a gravel group set. And I'm riding it on this bike because I wanted to get this Tavelo built up again for kind of like the road TT season. And I'm running it one by, so it suits it quite well, even though the mech is, probably way too strong a clutch for a road bike. But yeah, anyway, the buttons and the levers, so the whole lever assembly, including the 2 buttons on the right-hand shifter and the single button on the left-hand shifter, rattle like crazy. You have to drive so damn fast, so the wind noise off your own noggin blurs out that noise. It's just incredibly annoying. The only way to dampen it is to constantly ride with your fingers kind of like covering the levers. Can't remember what they call that in tab music now. Someone put it in the comments down below. The other thing, the rub on the hoods is rock hard. If your hands are sweaty like they are today, or a little bit greasy, it's just way too hard. It does seem to be a lever adjust on the bottom. I found no reference to that in the manual. But there is a little Allen screw right in the bottom, a set screw, but it doesn't really seem to do anything. It's like the very early Gen 1 Shimano disc brake levers. It didn't really do anything. The only saving grace is the lever body is quite short, and as you know, I like that because I think the new SRAM and Shimano stuff is grown because of the way they're putting the master cylinder in there. More dislikes, there is more. So the lack of visibility of the manual, and I'm talking about this group set from kind of right from the beginning to the end of the whole process, the user experience, everything, because I think a lot of reviewers just concentrate on the shifting, and there's more to it than that if you're going to call it a final product. So when you unbox this, you're guided straight to the app, which is baffling in its own right, and there's kind of zero visibility of the manual, which seems to be on the website. The manual itself has not bad English, but the app has a worse Google Translate function than 2005. Why they didn't just use ChatGPT and do it perfectly, I don't know. Mandarin to English on ChatGPT is perfect. It's just crap. The setup of the mech and shifters in the app. So first of all, I couldn't even pair the shifters to the mech, which is kind of unforgivable, really. The whole app just kind of reeks of being in dev mode, so like development mode. And I couldn't even figure out how to set the gears up because it was hidden in the actual like final user setup area is hidden in an area called debug mode. And if you know anything about software, which I don't, that seems like something that should be behind a developer's wall, and it's not user facing. So the app just needs a complete overhaul. There's way too much you can do on it. So for instance, like the rear mech can be trimmed left and right like you can with a Shimano or a SRAM, but then you can trim every single cog left and right individually. And if your cassette is made properly and spaced equally, like that shouldn't really need to be on there. I am reading from my notes, by the way, which is why I've got the phone. I'm not being rude. I'm not a child at the dinner table. So because the instructions are so poor and the app, the visibility of the manual was just nowhere to be seen in the app, I actually ended up watching a video by a guy called Oz Cycle on YouTube, which was actually really informative about how to set up and install the whole group set. Someone then told me that he killed his dog, but he seems to be like basically the company spokesman on YouTube for Wheeltop. But he made a very good video. So in total, the app just makes the Shimano eTube app look like Mac OS with great UX, which is saying something. Now the shifting is okay once you've got it set up. I got it to about 75% perfect shifting and I daren't fuck with it because I just don't want to mess it up. It took me so many times to pair it in the app, unpair it, repair it. I just didn't want to go there again. So it's working now, but it is quite slow. And I think that's because of the really strong cage tension on the lower cage. Now that's obviously by design because it's a gravel / all-road group set. So you don't want the chain bouncing off and slapping around. But that reluctance of the cage to move, to extend, really doesn't help when you try and shift up the block into an easier gear. And so shifting obviously isn't as crisp as a nice road group set like you might get on 105 or something like that. But in the end, it does shift. The other thing I forgot to mention about the shifters is the buttons are like, you can probably hear that. That's not even the click. That's like a weird pre-click. Which is responsible for a lot of the rattling. But when you're actually like on the limit, and I've been using this in road TT, so when you're on the limit and you want to shift, you just want to flick the paddle like you can with Shimano, you can't. It requires such a press to get it to shift down the block. It doesn't seem so bad on the other side, but this right-hand side shifter, the little paddle, because they only have that little paddle on the right-hand side shifter because it's one bike, it requires such a firm press. And you go through this kind of pre-stage, which is like the pre-stage of a trigger or a shutter button on a camera, which I don't think needs to be there. And then you really have to push it in to get it to click. And it just feels really unnatural and kind of annoying. And I don't think it's beneficial to have that. And I know some people complain about the action being too light on some Shimano levers, especially if you're in the winter and you've got big gloves. But this is ridiculous. So like I said, back to the cage tension thing, it is a very strong cage on there. The mech is quite tough. The clutch is quite strong. It's not adjustable, and the way it works is behind this little plastic trap door. It's just a kind of one-way friction sprag clutch, fairly similar to like Shimano mountain bike clutch really, but you can't turn it on and off, which is a bit of a downside. The only thing I think that's going to really hurt this long term is beyond this little plastic cap, there's no weather seal, there's no rubber gasket, so the whole clutch mechanism is not weatherproof at all. So it will degrade over time, whether it seizes up because of dust and dried dirt, or if it actually wears itself because of kind of grit ingress and water ingress and then becomes looser. I don't know, but simple things like that, yes, it might look great on the face of it, but when you start to look into the details, it's just crude and it really doesn't look like it's built to last. Even a Shimano XT clutch system with a little fully shaped 3D weather gasket around it, dirt still gets in there and that still needs servicing. So how this is going to fare with no weatherproofing or O-rings is probably not very good. Like I said, there will be some likes in this video, and here they come. So the one like, which is also its kind of Achilles heel, is that it's pretty much compatible with everything. You can have it from 7 speeds or 9 speeds or up to 14 speeds or whatever you like, and it's all customizable in the app. And like I said, you can change the indexing of every single cog on the cassette, but doing that is, I think it's too much adjustability for most people, and it's an absolute pain in the arse. The fact that, we now need an app to set up some gears on a bike is laughable, to be honest. I mean, you could do it on Shimano 11 speed without the app, but when it went to 12 speed, you need an app. I remember being stuck at 12 speed the very first time I had it, and I needed to load the Shimano manual through the app to be able to trim the mech, and I couldn't because I was out with 5G. And I'm like, I'm on my bike. This is getting ridiculous. But anyway, that's not a Wheeltop thing. That's for everyone. But a good thing it is compatible with all chains. I don't know if it's just kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but It's all chains, all cassettes. The mech pulleys seem to be able to deal with everything. So yeah, compatibility, I would say that's alike. It's very easy to mount. There's no internal battery like Di2. There's no wires. It's more like SRAM, so it is very easy to mount and very quick to throw on any bike, which is why I've got it on here. Easy to bleed the brakes. The brake bleed, I mean, this is probably the only part I didn't need a manual for, because intuitively it's very like Shimano. I just did a gravity bleed, and the braking feel on the lever to the caliper is I'll put my hand up and say it's firmer than Shimano. Whether that's the material of the hose is stronger, whether the actual lever blade has less flex in it, I'm not sure. But the calipers are monoblock, so they don't have the split design, which makes them a little bit stiffer. But the braking feel is up there with SRAM Red. It is really, really good. The other good thing is, I believe it's just a standard Shimano pad, so if you wear through these, you can just drop in a set of Shimano pad that, you know, your bike shop's going to have. And the hood shape, I really do like the hood shape. It's a bit like the old SRAM Red. It's very short. When we got to the new SRAM Red, or the latest one, and also the 12-speed Di2, the hoods all grew by like 12 to 15 millimeters. And I'm not talking about the lever reach, like some people thought I was in the SRAM video, and I could have made that clearer in my SRAM Red review. I'm talking about the actual bracket length of the hood that grew. And so if you're on a fixed cockpit, you know, integrated bar and stem, suddenly your bike fit was 12 to 15 mil longer, and there's nothing you can do about that. So that was a real pain, and I think a lot of that went unnoticed, and then people slightly riding, you know, slightly after the hood, not being able to grab it properly. And whereas these are like the old style, so if you're used to that old style of 11-speed shifter from either SRAM or Shimano, these are very similar. The other thing, just to point out, because, you know, setting up the thing was such a pain in a dog, the only other like is that there's no front mech, because I can imagine that would be an absolute pain in the arse. The battery life seems fairly good. I haven't charged it in 3 months. Just think about, before you go and buy one of these cheap Chinese group sets, that if you look at your local retailers, you can actually get Shimano at a really good price, and you don't need to buy cranks, chain, cassette, disc rotors, which then makes this more expensive than the Shimano 105 Di2. I just can't see in what world you would be on, and what planet Zog you would be on, to want to make that purchasing decision. I just don't understand it. Completely with unknown customer support of this as well, and longevity. I think it's a good first attempt. It feels still like a beta, particularly the app. Like I said, it seems to be stuck in like dev mode, and it seems like a development app, not a final user-facing UX. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I'm sorry I've been holding the phone close to my face, because my microphone with the camera died and it's not talking to the camera, so I'm out here doing this. It is bizarrely windy today, even though it wasn't forecast, but that is that. And I would say save your money. You can get a full, you know, 105 Di2 for the same price once you bought all the other bits. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's keep it real. It's good, you know, they're bringing this stuff out, but it just seems like another beta. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.